Hello, everyone. This is Sibylla Irwin. Welcome to Sketching Encounters. Today I have with me Jason Brad Miller, and he had an incredible daytime encounter with his family. And so he's going to share that with us today. Welcome to the show, Jason.
Thank you, Isabella. How are you doing?
I'm good. Good to see you again.
You too. And I would like to share an encounter that occurred in the year 2013. It was the last day of July, July 31st. My family and I, we live in a very small town in Northeast Washington called Colville. And we do a lot of hiking, outdoors activities, etc. And there's this one particular trail that we enjoy walking. We have walked it countless times, and it's a family encounter. One day we were sitting around, again, middle of summer, very hot day, and we were bored. And my daughter just says, "Hey, Dad, let's go take a walk up Hoodo Canyon Trail." And I'm like, "That's a great idea. Let's go." So we jump in the rig and we head to our spot. Now, this area is in Ferry County, Washington, and there's no cell service up there. And it is on the Colville National Forest. So it's open to everybody. And this is a well-maintained trail that the Forest Service maintains. And it's 1.7 miles from the trailhead, the beginning, to this lookout. And the lookout overlooks Hoodo Canyon. And once we get there, we always stop on this particular spot and enjoy the view. And we've done this so many times. We know it very well. So once we arrive, we jump out and we can't wait to go. Let's go. We know that once we get there, what we're going to see and enjoy. So we didn't bring any water with us because on the trail, there's two spots where there's spring water that comes out that you can drink if you're thirsty. Nor did we bring any cell phones. The reason behind that is there's no cell service, and we've walked this trail so many times that we don't need to take any more pictures. It's just, let's just get out and walk. So we start our trek, and from the beginning of the trail, we have to cross a little stream. And then as you cross the stream, it is uphill for the first half mile, and it kind of zigzags. And it's not an easy trail to walk if you're out of shape or if you need to have a walking device, etc. The first leg is pretty rugged. And as we're walking back through each zigzag, my son, myself, my wife, my daughter, and our dog were all single file heading up this trail. And I'd like everybody to know that I'm very hard of hearing. So that this is going to come into play here along this walk. So my son, he's in front and he's just flying up ahead. He's just boogieing. And we get to this one spot and my son's standing there and he's looking across this little canyon and he goes, "Dad, do you hear that noise?" And I'm like, "Son, I don't hear no noise. No, sorry." But he goes, "Well, there's something over there that is making a lot of crushing, cracking, odd noise." And I immediately thought, it's probably a moose. And in this area, there's some free range cattle that are usually in the area. They weren't down below where we were parked, but I assumed it might have been a moose or some free range cattle. So anyways, he sprints off again, and we're single file heading up, and he stops again, maybe 5-10 minutes later, and he goes, Dad, that sound is right across from us again. And I'm trying to listen, and I don't hear it. My wife and my daughter come up, they hear it. Again, I'm trying to put this together. Now, what was down below? What's up here? Okay, another moose, free range cattle. They're all spread out, possibly. Well, let's go. We head up again. He stops us, I think 4 or 5 times on the way up, to tell us something is directly across from us. So parallel, working its way up as we're working our way up. It's just not registering, because I'm just assuming it's the normal woodland critters doing what they do. We get to the last stretch, and it's a straight shot about 100 yards, and then we end up on this flat ledge, the lookout. Now, at the lookout, it's 120 feet straight down, and then the bench where we sit, and then to our back, it's about a 35 degree vertical wall up. So it's so you can sit on this bench and look out over this beautiful untouched canyon that nothing has been touched since who knows when. And the most beautiful part is when the sun starts to set. It's just nature at its finest. But my son, he takes off sprinting because he wants to get to the spot first. He just has to get there first. And I don't have a problem with this because we've been up there so many times. Well, when my wife, my daughter, and myself arrive, he's not there. He's gone. And instantly I have this, he fell off. He's down. And in my mind, it's just racing. Just, what do I got to do? Instantly. And we're yelling for him. We're screaming for him. I'm trying to look over the edge to see if I could see any visual sign. And he's up behind us, above the cliff behind us. He scaled up the cliff and was peeking down. And I look up at him and I bark at him. I go, "You get your butt down here. What are you doing up there?" And he kind of shimmies his way down, slides his way down, like no big deal. And I'm like, "Dude, do you know what were you doing? Do you know how bad you scared us?" And he says, "But Dad, listen, when I got here, there was a man peeking over the ledge down at me." And I go, "What do you mean a man?" He goes, "Dad, there was a man looking down." And I did not believe him, because where we were at, there was no other vehicle down below. And I couldn't think of what in the world, who would be up there. And I says, "Well, can you describe it to him?" And he was just a scruffy looking man. I got a real quick glimpse. I didn't believe him. Sorry. I just didn't. And so we sat there, no issues. And we sat there and enjoyed this view as a family unit. And I looked at my watch, and I knew we had exactly 1 hour to get from where we were at back down to the truck. That's the time it takes to walk down. It takes longer to go up, but it takes exactly 1 hour to walk down at a very safe, slow pace. So, all right, everybody, let's go. Come on. So my dog, German Shepherd, about 110 pounds, he's in front. He always has to be in front. Then it was my son, my wife, my daughter, and I was pulling up the rear. And we were single file heading back down. One very important factor was this was prime huckleberry season. Mm-hmm. In our area, when these berries are ripe, they're candy. You can't stop eating them. Our hands were purple. Our lips were purple. We had our fill. So we start working our way down. And again, my dog is in front, my wife and my son, and my daughter. As I am pulling up the rear, they're on the trail heading down, and this is really important. As they were ahead of us, the trail makes a 90-degree right-hand turn. And then roughly 40, 50 yards, it makes a 90-degree left-hand turn. And once you make this left-hand turn, you are out of view and you're down into some dark, dark cedars. So my dog, my wife, and my son had already made the right-hand turn, the left-hand turn, and they were going to sit in a spot in the cedars and wait for us to catch up. So they were completely out of our view. My daughter and I were just kind of bebopping along, just kind of taking our time. And I stopped immediately on this trail because I felt very uneasy. So I felt it's really hard to explain unless you've been in this situation. I'm a U.S. Army retired combat medic. So my spidey senses are always on. It's something that I cannot turn off. But I felt predator eyes, this feeling of being watched, observed in a manner that not dangerous, but I knew something was not right. So I stop. My daughter is just a few feet in front of me. As I had stopped and I turned to my left, not my body, but I kind of quartered my body to the left a little bit. And then I looked completely over my left shoulder. Right on the trail behind us, just a few feet off the trail, was this small juvenile Sasquatch. How it was sitting, and I'm going to do my best to describe this. Either it was sitting cross-legged, it was either sitting on its rear end, mm-hmm. or it was sitting on its knees. But it had its back pressed up hard against a blue spruce pine tree. The boughs of the pine tree just came over the top of its head. So it was completely positioned in a manner like this. But from its waist up and the branches of the trees, the tree was just like an umbrella effect. Mm-hmm. When I looked at this Sasquatch, I could tell it was a youth, very young. And I quietly but sternly called for my daughter. I go, Haley, come here. Look right there. Now I'm pointing over my left shoulder at a 45-degree angle, pointing like this. Yeah. Look right there. And my daughter was 13, little smart mouth. So she turns around and she goes, Dad, I don't want to eat any more huckleberries. I no, because she thought I was like pointing out another big juicy patch of forest candy. And I go, no, look right there. And that's when she completely turned around 180 degrees and now was facing me. And now she's looking over my left shoulder to her right. And she's looking directly at this juvenile Sasquatch. And she goes, holy effing bleep, it's a Sasquatch. I go, I know. Look, let's look at it. Now, I had a firearm on. I always have a handgun with me, but it was concealed over my t-shirt. Never once ever had I had a thought of danger. But as I turn around and now I'm facing this juvenile Sasquatch and my daughter is coming closer to me, this young Sasquatch was slowly grasping one huckleberry at a time. It would look at it, pick it up, look at one of us in the eyes, and with its pursed lips, would just consume it. And I describe this as somebody who is eating popcorn at a movie theater. You're concentrated on the show and you're eating popcorn, but you're being entertained. And this young Sasquatch was eating these huckleberries, looking at me. It would look at my daughter. I would look at we're having this three-way stare down. Yeah. But what the most incredible part of this was, this young Sasquatch was so happy to be where it was at. It was giving off this vibe of happiness, blissfulness, joy, in awe of what it was looking at. Almost as if we were its entertainment. Mm-hmm. And I look at my watch and minutes are going by, but they seem like hours. But because the time had just slowed down and we're just going back and forth, looking at this young Sasquatch while it's eating these huckleberries. And it didn't change its position. It was just like resting up against this tree with the boughs over, eating huckleberries. I will never forget how muscular this little Sasquatch was. And what I mean muscular, I mean jacked. He was, excuse me, it was very well developed. The anatomy was not of a scrawny, what I would say, being that would not be capable of surviving on its own without like a mother or a father or another person to take care of it. This Sasquatch was very well developed muscular wise, especially his chest, his traps, his biceps. But again, I could only see from the waist up. Very well defined abdominal muscles. Not hairy like you see or you hear the traditional just long scruffy and I don't know if I should say this, but the Jack Link's commercial where there's the typical long scary looking unkept, mean looking. No, this little Sasquatch, I could see through its hair to its skin. I could, so I'm assuming that the hair had enough time over the years to grow to what might be the normal length.
Right.
The hair on its body was, and I've always described this to the best of my ability as the hair, the color of an elk from the base of an elk's ears to the mid line of its neck. This not chocolate brown, but just a darker tan brown. That's the best description that I can give of the hair.
Right.
But I could see through the hair where its skin was just a shade darker. So there was a contrast between the hair and the skin. Darker skin, but just a little bit lighter hair. One of the most amazing things that I will never forget is its fingernails. We're so close to this little Sasquatch that when it would reach out, I could clearly see the cuticles were jet black and not long like claws, or as if they had been broken or shattered. They appeared to have just been manicured. They were so perfectly even, like fingernail clippers had just been used. But jet black. And that was in contrast with the darker skin. So it stood out. It was just something I'll never forget. Now, when I get to the face, the best way that I've always been able to describe its facial features was of a prepubescent male. You can tell about the age of a young boy or male just at puberty. It did not have any facial hair, void of all facial hair, zero. I've been asked if it had peach fuzz. I wasn't that close, but it had no facial hair. It had no wrinkles. It had no crow's feet. It had no. Its skin looked so young and youthful. It's as if it had a facial. It was just so pristine, so clean. I did not get a good look of its teeth because it was constantly just taking these huckleberries with its pursed lips and consuming them. The facial bone structure, I have spent so much time researching, in my best opinion, represents East African features. These high cheekbones, these prominent cheekbones that just stood out. The nose was, again, of the same part of Africa, Somalia, Yemen, Ethiopia. It was kind of pushed in a little bit. Flared nostrils, more ape-like. So a mixture. And its eyes were human eyes. There's no way that I could state there's a difference between a human eye and its eye. The pupils were medium dilated. The iris was a dark chocolate brown, and the rest of the eyeballs were white, as clean and clear as ours. I tried to get a good glimpse of its eyelashes. I just couldn't make them out. Now we're at the 5-minute mark, and I'm still sitting here, I am looking this juvenile Sasquatch over constantly. And my daughter is just right at my side. She's not saying a word. She's observing this young Sasquatch the way I am, but we're not talking. We weren't stunned, but we were fascinated by what we are sitting here looking at. Now, I was never a believer. I was always a skeptic or on the fence. I grew up in Washington State, hunting, fishing from back when diapers were cotton, before disposable diapers. I mean, so I know what we're looking at. One of the most fascinating things was its hair. And I would like to do my best to describe its hair. It had this perfect part down the middle, as if it combed each side. And it was not scruffy. It had no material in it. It had no pine needles. It had no leaves. It was not like bedhead. It didn't have that just wild man look. No. This hair with its part straight down, just these gentle waves coming just to its jawline, was so clean. And I want to stress this immensely, how clean this Sasquatch was. Now, I've used the words such as manicure, etc. And to sum all this little Sasquatch up, it looked as if it had just taken a bath or a shower, and it made itself up to go out for the evening on a date. That's the best way I can describe it. It was so clean, youthful, and didn't have a care in the world where it was sitting. So to back up a little bit, before I sensed this juvenile, if my dog passed by it and my son and my wife passed by it, it was positioned where we walked by its right shoulder. So all it had to do was look to the right and monitor us as we came from behind, and then we would be in its visual field as we walked down past it. So it would have only caught a glimpse of us at our shoulder from our left side as it was looking, because it had its back against a tree. Mm-hmm. So it was positioned in a spot where we would not have seen it forward looking. But it monitored my dog walking by, my wife and my son, and then my daughter. And then that's when I sensed eyes. Mm-hmm. But at any point in time, if we had seen it parallel to us, we could have reached out and touched it. It was just a few feet off the trail where this tree was at, and this huckleberry bunch of bushes were located. So it was that close to us. There was no smell.
Right.
We didn't smell anything. I cannot explain how my dog didn't sense it. That I will never figure out. He's since passed, but he walked right past it. And he's sniffing around doing his dog thing. How did he not sense this? I have no answers. Mm-hmm. But where it was positioned, it was smart enough to know where to post up without being seen coming forward, and just observe us going on one by one as we walked by. So I don't think he was expecting us ever once to notice it or sense it. I thought maybe as soon as I turned around and looked and we made eye contact, I thought maybe it was going to get up and just take off.
Yeah.
Or I don't know. It never did. Again, it had no care in the world. I don't know if I'd ever seen a human before, honestly, the way it was looking at us.
Or just maybe it sees humans a lot. Like maybe that's why it was so comfortable. Maybe humans are its entertainment, and it watches them all the time without people knowing. Maybe you guys were the first ones who ever like actually caught it at its game.
Caught it, exactly.
Yeah.
And it might not have it might have just been like, well, I don't know what to do either. Do I, because it was so young. One thing I tell people when they're out in the woods, yes, always look for, sign or something, but always look up too, because I believe that they use the trees to go from, to traverse. But at the same time that we're standing there, my daughter and I also had a feeling of there has to be a parent or a guardian around. I wouldn't let my young little kid go off me that far away, but I felt from actually multiple directions. I kind of felt that there was other eyes, but not as intense. So my daughter and I are sitting there. We're just past the 5-minute mark now, about 6-minute mark. And I can hear now my wife, my dog, and my son, I can hear them coming back. We should have already caught up to them. And I knew that as soon as they got to this one particular spot, coming back, making these 90-degree turns, that where we were at, if my dog now was in the front like he usually is, he's possibly now going to see what we're standing there looking at. So as soon as I was able to communicate to my wife, I says, stop, grab, and wait. And she grabbed our dog, and I told my daughter, go. Start walking. Don't run. Just start walking. So my daughter took a few steps, and I took a couple steps. I had to take one more glance. I had to take one more look. I just had to. And just as I turned again, looked over my left shoulder, as we had started to walk away, it had got up. I saw it was a male young Sasquatch. I saw his genitalia. So that confirmed my theory of when I'm staring at this jacked, buffed, little, youthful Sasquatch, that it was a male. And when I came back, I did some measurements, and my best guesstimate from all the measurements was just at 6 feet tall. So, so that's the size, the height that the best of my measurements and everything that I could do to come up with that figure. 5'11" to 6'1", right in that, based on where it was sitting, the height of the boughs, and then the last glimpse I saw, I measured from the, et cetera. So just at 6 feet. We catch up to my wife and my son, and my wife's like, "What are you guys doing?" I mean, we're getting chewed out, in the most playful way. And I says, honey, you have no idea what we just watched and saw. And We tell her, my son, and now I'm like, my son was telling the truth the whole time. I believe you now, dude. I'm sorry. Now,
Right.
now, was it the same one that was peeking over that he saw? Was it one of multiple that were in that area? I'll never know. Well, I apologized to him because he was right. I did chew him out for climbing up there and doing something, but he anyways. So we're talking about this encounter, and again, we're working our way down slowly. We would stop, yap for a while, a few minutes, but I know we're on a clock because we don't want to be walking down this first leg that I described at the beginning because it's pretty dangerous at night or right at dark. So we're as a family talking, just explaining what we saw. My wife believes me, my daughter, my son. I know he does. And just as the sun was setting behind the Kettle mountain range, the coyotes in the area, they started going off. They started their roll call. They just were yipping and just howling. And not where this, now I'm going to start saying this male juvenile Sasquatch, where he had disappeared, but this was, I want to say, a half to 3/4 of a mile away, was this return vocalization back to these coyotes. And it shut them coyotes up like a light switch. And we're like, we had never heard any sound like that before. And but to shut those coyotes up, we're starting to add this up now. This is all starting to make sense. And we get to the vehicle and we head home.
What did that vocalization sound like? Was it mirroring the coyotes, or was it a whoop, or what did it? Can you describe it?
The best. Now I'm very hard of hearing. To my best of my recollection, it was a mixture of a scream slash, not a howl, but it was a scream with this deep sound, very testosterone filled, not a high pitched scream, and not a scream from like a female scream, a woman screaming for help, but a very deep, deep scream. The tone was extremely low, but it was a scream that I've never heard before. I couldn't duplicate it even if I tried.
Right.
But that's the best way. It was like, I just want to say what I believe, a male, the head dog, the head boss,
Oh,
the chief in charge was telling those coyotes to shut up.
okay. So you don't think it was from the juvenile that you saw?
Absolutely not.
Gotcha.
Unless that juvenile was able to traverse 3/4 of a mile within a few minutes, possibly. But again, he was so young, I can't see him having that deep of a
voice.
no. Yeah. But again, we don't know.
Right.
We don't know.
Right.
But I believe it was another one that was just telling those coyotes to shut up. And it did. It worked. It worked really well. Wow. We're just blown away because we've been up this trail so many times. Now, if I brought my camera or cell phone, would it have happened? I doubt it.
Yeah.
I highly doubt it. It's almost as if they know. But again, there was no need to bring a cell phone or camera or water. We just, it was just part of our life that we do. And I don't expect anybody else to understand because, this is what we do as a family. And hindsight's 2020. But I've said this before. If I had some sort of audio capturing device, could it have been the golden ticket? Could it have been
Yeah.
the one? It still would have been, dissected and broken apart, and but it's not proof.
It's never, it's never good enough. It's never good
it's
enough.
Not.
Yeah.
So anybody out there questioning me, why didn't I get a picture? Well, I hope I answer your questions. So we get home and I can't wait to go back. Everybody wants to go back. And there was no real reason to go back. We weren't going back to go back up to try to, relive this encounter. We just wanted to go back camping. We got to go back. That's what's so cool. Let's just go back. So I spent most of the evening packing up our camper. Everybody's gathering their stuff, and because we just want to go back. And so we had plans to go back for between 5 and 7 days to stay up there in this spot. It's a very nice place to go camping. You have all the amenities. You have a creek to go play in. Middle of summer's hot. Beautiful. So my daughter and my son asked if they can bring a friend along, a family friend that's their age. And I'm like, hey, more the better. Let's go, bring them. So the next morning, we get everything else gathered up and we head up. After we set up camp, get everything ready to enjoy the evening, we're all sitting around the campfire right at dark, just at that perfect hour at sunset. And we're all sitting on our, in our spots. And I'm a stander. I never like to sit. I just like to just stand. So everybody's sitting in their camp chair around the campfire and doing their normal thing, cooking s'mores and hot dogs and all the normal fun activities. And my goofy dog has this habit. He has to have his own special camp chair. He just has to. And I don't know how he does it, but he gets his big butt up in this camp chair and he just balls up into this ball. And he's just sits there and he stares into the coals in the campfire like we do. Wherever our brains go or our primitive brains go, when we stare into the fire and enjoy, he's doing it. And he's dozing off. He wakes up and he looks, kind of looks around, makes sure we're all still there. And all of a sudden, he jumps out of his chair, flies out of it, knocks it over. And he takes off as fast as he can run to the trailhead, right where the trail where we're camped on a flat ledge, and the trail dumps down, crosses a stream, and then that's when I said it starts to get real steep going up. So he's at the trailhead looking down into the darkness. And my dog is one of those dogs that is the sweetest dog on this earth, but he looked like a grizzly bear if you saw him from a distance, because the years of him and I pounding these mountains, he just got extremely muscular on his front quarters. And he's German Shepherd, but he looked really mean, but just the sweetest dog in the world. And I've never seen him ever do what he did. Jumped out this camp chair, flew to the edge of the darkness, and he stood there, and his hackles on the back of his neck stood up, and he is staring down into this draw with the most aggressive stance. I've never ever seen him act this way. And I'm like, what's creeping up on us? Now, in our area, we have all types of predators. There's so many wolves in this area. Grizzly bears, of course, a lot of cougar, lynx, bobcat, the black bears, coyotes. So he's been around every one of these woodland animals since a puppy. My wife and I were looking at each other like, what's wrong? We're now kind of getting a little nervous, and the kids they're freaking out a little bit too. And I told them all, hey guys, just chill. Let me go over. I'll take care of it. So I walk up to him, and he had a chain collar, and I grabbed him by his collar, and I gently just tried to pull him back a little bit.
Yeah.
No, he fought me. He was pushing forward, and I pulled a little harder, and he aggressively was pushing forward more. I could not break his stance. Now, I was not hurting him at all. Yeah. I was trying to get him to, hey, what's going on? I could not get him to even
look at you.
Look at me.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking there's something down there. Sure. There's something down there. And I finally was able to pull hard enough where he looked back at me, and he got the hint. Hey, okay, all right. So he moped his way back to the campfire. When I mean mope, he was just, like, I was doing my job, Dad. What? Why?
Yeah.
So I set his camp chair back up, and I thought he'd get right back up in that chair. No, he laid near the campfire and just stared at the trailhead. And I told everybody, I says, don't worry, whatever comes up, I got it. Now, when I say that, I mean, I will do whatever it takes to protect my family.
Sure.
I'm not going to do something crazy. I'm not going to, I'm not no violent person by any means, but I'll do what it takes. So whatever is down there, I hope it doesn't come up. I was just hoping it was passing by. Right about the time that I was telling them this, all hell broke loose. Where my dog was looking down into, at the bottom where the creek, it's Hoodo Creek, or I'm sorry, Dead Man Creek is what it's called. On down at the bottom, it was as if somebody was completely going berserk, smashing, breaking things, thrashing. There was not a single sound made, vocal sound. There was tree branches that were just smashed against the trees that you could hear them just crack. And it was so intense because the sound reverberated up towards us.
Yeah.
And then off to our right, it started. Now, where we were camped at was on this flat plateau. And again, it dropped down in front of us. But then to our right at 100 yards was another little draw, miniature canyon. And it dropped down. And then to our left was another one. So we were on a flat plateau, and on three sides, there was areas where you could go down into the dark areas into these draws. But it started off to our right, the same thresh.
Let me ask you, how far
Yeah.
away are you at, how far away were you camping from your sighting area?
From right where we were camped to the lookout is 1.7 miles.
Okay. Okay. So you're in the ballpark.
Exactly.
Yeah. So you're in the ballpark of, yeah, I got you.
Right in this pocket. Now it's 1.7 miles, the trail. So where we were camped at, the trailhead was just 50 yards from our fire ring. But then it dropped down.
Gotcha.
But it's once it started to our right, the same commotion, the same violent actions that were being made. It was something was having a bitch fit, just completely going crazy.
Yeah.
Making as much noise with whatever it could find on the ground. Nothing was thrown at us. There was no rocks or pine cones, or there was nothing. This was just audible, complete commotion. And then it started off to our left.
Oh dear.
Just absolutely the same. Now, then it was in front of us. And at the same time, in front of us to the left, and then sometimes on all three sides of us. And this just kept going on. I figured it out. We're in their area. The huckleberry patches that are in this part of the state, they're not all over the place. They're in condensed certain areas.
Mm-hmm.
And where we were at was prime spot. So we were in their, we were in their backyard. We were in their area. And I think they were letting us know that they were very, very, very upset that we were there. And they waited until dark to start this. Another theory I have is that they might have been extremely upset that we got so close to one of their youth, and we were dumb enough to come back. And then now they're teaching us a lesson. But they let us know, you guys do not belong here, and we're going to do everything we can to scare you off.
Right.
And there was lulls, and it would pick back up, and then it would get quiet, and it would pick back. And this just kept going and going and going and going. The young boy that my kids brought, he had enough. He went in the camper. He's done. He's done. This was freaking him out. This is not what he expected. My daughter went in also because they're best friends. So they're in the camper, and this is still going on. And my wife is standing around the campfire, and she's starting to get a little nervous because it just won't cease. Now, I don't have time to start picking up camp and loading the gear up, getting everything together. It's pitch black, dark out. I can't move us right now. Sure, we could have, but I wasn't going to do it. I just kept telling my wife and my son, hey, they're letting us know that they're mad. They would have come up. There would have been something else aggressively done to, at this point, that would have made me decide, everybody get in the truck and we'll come back tomorrow and pick everything up.
Right.
But it just kept going on. Finally, my wife says, I had it. I'm going to go in the camper. You guys stay out here and deal with this. She was being sarcastic, but at the same time, it just wouldn't stop. My dog never got back up. He just stayed in his spot and was staring at that first direction that he originally alerted to. Now, it's right at midnight. It's a full moon. Stars are out. It's one of those nights where you can see so well from the moonlight in open areas.
Mhm.
around and then of course the campfire illumination would only go so far out. But if you got down into the dark timber, it's going to be pitch black.
Sure.
So my son and I are sitting at the campfire. Well, he's sitting in his camp chair, and I'm standing facing the trailhead where my dog's still looking. And my son has his back to where the one to our right is still going off. And he's just staring into the coals. He's 18. He's staring into the coals. For some reason, he stands up almost robotically in this manner that was very odd. So as he stood up in this robotic motion, he turned slowly to his right. He took a couple steps, and then he took another right, and he went just into the darkness past the illumination of the campfire. So I couldn't see him once he got out of the campfire light, including the moonlight, because he walked off into the darkness a little bit. And I was like, okay, well, he must have to go take a leak pretty bad, or he's very tired. And so I'm a watch guy. I'm a time guy. So I looked at my watch, and I said, I'm okay. Doesn't take that long to go to the bathroom. I'll give him another minute or so. And I waited. He didn't come back. So again, I looked at my watch, and now it's been a couple minutes, I think about 3 minutes plus. And right at that moment, when I decided to go find him, what are you doing?
Sure.
He yells for me in the most frightening manner. And from where we had our campfire, where we were posted up, it is a flat field, and it's 100 yards to, well, it's just over 100 yards to where the one to the right was making this noise, and it dropped down into this dark canyon. When he screamed for me, Dad, now, the way he screamed for me was not help, like terror, but yelling for me in a manner to get me over here now.
Right.
And I am flying over there as fast as I can. When I got to him, the moonlight was shining on his back. So he was facing away from me, slightly looking down into this draw, into this dark, dark, dark canyon. I grabbed him by his left shoulder. And like my dog, when I was trying to turn him to get him to turn around, I had to pull on his shoulder to get, he was almost as if he was like my dog was, no.
Yeah.
He was still trying to look down into the darkness. And I pulled a little harder. He turned a little bit more, but he's still looking down. At that point, I stepped just a little closer to his left side, and I was looking down at what he was looking down at. Just a few feet away from him, all you could make out was the perfect silhouette of it was pitch black, a perfect silhouette of a giant, massive Sasquatch. Pitch black in the dark. The thing that we both saw were the eyes, and I was never a believer when I would hear these things, but I could make out the eyes, this extremely soft glow of orangish amber, not bright red, not eye shine, not bright, but just this very soft amber orangish glow of a pair of eyes looking right at my son. Not at me, but right at my son. My son is fixated on him or it. But when it saw me, and now this is bang, bang, bang. When it saw me, it turned around and it just took off downhill, bust into the brush, crashing, and then gone. Boom, not a sound. So I know when it got to the bottom of this draw, it had to cross Dead Man Creek. But I didn't hear any splashing of water. I didn't hear rocks, noises of heavy footsteps going over the rocks or anything. So I assumed that it got to the bottom and stopped. Mm. But after it turned around and dumped down into that darkness, my son then kind of relinquished his stance and he turned 180 degrees and he just slowly walked back to his camp chair at this very slow, robotic motion that was not him. This guy's full of energy. His battery's charged 120%. This is as if he was, I can't explain it other than just this robotic motion. Then he sat down in his camp chair. He went back to staring at the coals. Didn't talk to me. I didn't ask him a single question because he wasn't there. Wow. His aura was not there. And he got up and he went in the camper and went to sleep. I stayed up all night long. I did not go to sleep. I stayed up till dawn because they did not stop. They slowed down their aggressive noise making. The one to the right picked up later on, where my son and I had just had this whatever. The one to the left was still going. The one in front of us, it was the one that was making the most noise all night long. But just as the sun started to come up, just as daylight was approaching, that twilight where the force starts to come alive, gone. They were gone. No more noise. So we picked up camp that morning. We gathered everything up and we went 7 miles up and we spent the rest of our, 5 more nights, 7 miles away, and nothing else occurred. I can't explain what some people say, mind control, infrasound. I don't know, but something took possession of my son, had him walk into the pitch darkness. And I stand by this to the day I die and beyond, that if he had not have screamed out for me, for whatever reason he was capable of vocalizing, he would have been gone. I truly believe he would have been taken. One of the 411 mysteries, which would have crushed my soul. Of course, anybody's.
Yeah, absolutely. Wow.
You have a drawing of what best describes what him and I saw. Just that perfect silhouette, but that's exactly what crept up on us and drew my son away. My son to this day will not speak about this, period. He doesn't even like talking Sasquatch about anything. I mean, we still got the woods. We do all sorts of activities, but he won't talk about that ever. He'll talk about what he saw with the guy peeking over, but we don't go there anymore, trying to figure out what happened. So that was August 1st. So within a 24-hour period, we had one of the sweetest, kindest, most gentlest encounters. And I always would like to leave it at this. I wanted to walk up to him like a lost child on the street. And you just want to say, where's your parents? You know, that loving nature of, good people seeing a child that, might be lost or whatever. And then we go to something that terrorizes us all night long.
Yeah.
The next night, and was the polar opposite within a 24-hour period. And that changed my life forever. And since then, I have been a hardcore. There's so many labels out there, but I'll use this term loosely, researcher. All I do is I go out and I find and I share. I never say this is,
right.
But what are your thoughts on my Sasquatch page? But it changed my life in such a manner that, for the good. Obsessed is the best way to put it, but in the best way.
Yeah.
So
that's
my story.
Well, thank you so much for sharing it with us. So you just want to, like the rest of us, you're looking for those pieces of the puzzle because you're trying to figure out what they are, right? You're trying to figure out who they are, where they're from, what our relationship to them is, and why they act the way they do. I think you're hit it on the head though, that they just didn't want you there. I can't help but wonder though about them allowing their youngster to be so close to you guys. That's really surprising that they allowed that.
That I'll never know why.
Yeah.
I do have a theory. There's so many theories out there. You can throw so much stuff to the walls and some will stick, some won't. And I'm not going to, what I'm about to say, I don't and will not offend anybody in this manner. But what I and my daughter encountered was not a walking bear. It was not a thing that just appeared or disappeared interdimensionally, etc.
Right.
This was a flesh and blood being of who, what, when, where, and why, and the history of whatever.
Yeah.
We will never know. But what I know for a fact is this was a living, breathing, consuming forest candy with emotions, smiling, smirking, joyfully, blissfully, entertaining us while we're being entertained, but clean.
Yeah.
Freshly manicured, almost as if it had just again been cleaned by its mama and let out to go play.
Yeah.
Are they the same all over? They couldn't be, such as the ones in Florida, the ones in Alaska, the ones in other places. But the one that my daughter and I witnessed, you did a wonderful drawing and it is
Thank you.
spot on.
Thank
Spot
you.
on.
Thank you. Thank you for
Please
your help.
share.
And thank you. Oh, I will.
Okay.
And thank you. And thank her for her help as well, because I know she also looked at it. The
She had a lot of input.
yes, thank you.
But
Did you say that your son was a 2 feet, just like literally 2 feet away from that black silhouette? Is that right?
he could have, it could have grabbed him
Oh my
that
God.
close, that close. That when I'm to his left side, quartered a little bit, I probably could have lurched and
Yeah.
grabbed it. But by the time that I got there and it turned its face, it did it not its face, it took its eye contact off my son and just instantly saw me and gone. It just spun around, was gone. Yeah, all it had to have done is reach and grab my son and just, or whatever.
Yeah.
Or my son could have reached out. That close, that close.
Oh my gosh. And
And now,
the eye glow, the eye glow that you saw, obviously it wasn't, you guys weren't using any kind of flashlights.
zero.
Zero.
No,
So you're saying these were self-illuminating?
correct,
Yeah.
correct. Now, one thing that you just made me think of that is very important. We were at almost the same level, eye level. Now, where we were, where he was, my son was standing, I was standing, it dropped off
Right.
into this canyon. So it was down lower off the hillside, but its head was even with us.
Ugh,
So it's so its lower torso was off where we were on the flat spot.
yeah.
So if it had come up and was even with us, we would have been looking up.
Yeah.
But I did. But prior to this occurring, I did have a Generation 1 night vision monocular, very rudimentary, but that we were using initially when they first started to make the noises, the crashing. We were going back and forth looking, trying to see if we could see something down below. But when that failed, and then we just decided to sit around the campfire, no flashlights, no nothing.
Yeah.
So when I got up to him,
Mm.
the only illumination was from the moon.
Right.
That was it. Could it have been reflecting from the moonlight? But this was a glow, a very soft, almost a night light you would put in the hallway at night.
Did you see a pupil?
No,
So it was just a glow.
just two glows, just two glows. You have a perfect drawing that is spot on.
Like your son had this incredible experience. Do you think he did not remember, like from the time? I mean, do you think he has no memory of what happened when he stood up and walked down there, or does?
Oh, he remembers it.
He remembers everything, but
he remembers.
He just doesn't want to talk about it.
Well, he remembers everything, but he doesn't have an explanation why he did what he did.
Okay.
He remembers standing up. He remembers walking off. He remembers yelling for me. He remembers seeing this silhouette in the eyes.
Okay.
But he doesn't have an explanation of what made him do that. Yeah. And again, I thought he was just going to go urinate. So, but for him to have gone that far away,
right?
It's something unexplainable.
Okay.
And I didn't sense it. I didn't feel anything. I didn't hear.
Yeah.
It didn't affect me that way. It was almost singled him out.
How how was he affected? Was he different after that? Did it?
No, no,
No, he was the
no.
same. And
I'm
your
sorry.
daughter, how was she impacted by seeing the juvenile?
The same way I feel. We were both two of the luckiest people on the planet at this particular time that got to enjoy something
Amazing.
together as a father and daughter experience.
Yeah, yeah.
And the only negative thing was when she went to school and told friends, they poked fun at her, but she stood her ground. Um, it, it, but no, didn't affect her negatively at all. We talk about it all the time. We all the time, when things come up.
Yeah,
Um, but nothing negative, just
yeah.
something that her and I will always have to share together. That if it was scary, or if it had, the little guy had threatened us, or there had been something,
Sure. Yeah,
we might not be so jovial about it. But because it was so cute, he was so cute. It was
yeah,
just so cute, this cute little dude.
yeah.
Um, it, it just made everything so much special. And when we still go out camping and stuff, we've never had as a family anything happen like that. Visual.
Mhm.
We've had other visitors around us over the years. Maybe it's just the vibe our family gives off when we're out, but no, she's fine. She's cool with it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Wow. Is there anything else that you would like, our audience to know about?
I would like to state that this has been 10 years since I've spoken about this. This happened in 2013. And there's so much, what I would put nicely, there's so much garbage on the internet now.
Mhm.
So everything, there's so much competition out there. Um, Sift through some of the stuff you watch. Believe some of the people, because some of the people are really telling the truth. Um, I'm not a woo-woo guy. I'm not into
Mhm.
the paranormal stuff like that, because what I encountered with my daughter and with my son, now that could be woo-woo with my son. I don't know, but I know with my daughter it was flesh and blood, and they're out there. Um, but the thing that I would like to stress to people out there is I use the term Sasquatch respectfully. I find the terminology Bigfoot as slang.
Right.
So I use the term Sasquatch in a respectful manner.
Yeah.
What I would like people to please understand that when somebody says that they are a Sasquatch hunter, uh, that's where I kind of draw the line. Um,
Mhm.
Hunter means to me harm.
Yeah.
And what I saw and witnessed, there should be no reason for somebody to want to go out to harm one. And the chances of that happening are zero. It would have happened by now. Um, so I would like people just to respectfully um, believe some of the tales, some of the encounters, some of the stories, um, and don't go out hunting them.
Mhm.
They're in their backyard, and you're a guest in their backyard.
Right.
And I love them to death. They mean so much to me, and I hope I made that clear as possible to everybody out there. Do no harm,
Mhm.
because
Yeah.
you're in their backyard, you're in their living room, you're in their kitchen, and some of the evidence that I have found will be shared or has been shared on other podcasts. But thank you for your time. I'm not into likes or attention. That's not my goal. My goal is to share my encounters, plural. Almost everyone has been with either one or multiple other people. I'm not in this for likes. I'm not in this for attention. I'm out there to advance this field, to one day prove beyond a doubt that they exist, and we must protect them. They were here before us, and they're going to be here after us. And they're living being like we are.
Right. Right. Well,
That's
thank
my
you
goal.
so much. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for sharing your encounter on my channel. I deeply appreciate you.
Thank you so much, Sibylla. I have a Sasquatch page on Facebook called Northeast Washington Sasquatch Society. And it's primarily focused on the northeast corner of Washington State and the panhandle of Idaho and into Trail, Banff, into British Columbia. Please feel free to contact me over private messenger. Share with me. Don't share with me. Ask questions. I would be more than happy to take people out. And in fact, I'm taking out a guy I met a couple weeks ago and see what happens.
Awesome.
But I'm not in this for likes or attaboys. I'm just in this to share my encounter.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much again. And we will be in touch and keep in touch too.
Absolutely, Sibylla. Thank you so much. Awesome. Right on.
Thank you. Bye.